We're going to go through the ATS and the money line picks, the total picks, and of course, some player props and parlays for y'all tonight. So let's go ahead and let's start it out here with Steve. You are once again backing the feisty Washington Commanders. I know this is a team you had a bunch of Commanders during the football season on your team for fantasy, and you've been backing them in the playoffs and making money.
Yeah, and there's no reason to stop doing that, right? Until they prove otherwise, this team is looking every bit a Super Bowl contender. They just beat the team we thought was coming out of the NFC. Like, everyone had the Lions earmarked for a Super Bowl, and they beat the brakes off of them. So who's to say that, like, 6.5 points for this offense against a team they've already beaten this season? That's a lot. That's a lot in the playoffs for a divisional matchup. This is the third time these teams are seeing each other. A Super Bowl is on the line, and you're giving me more than a touchdown? That feels like
Under a
easy
touchdown,
money.
just under a touchdown, 6.5.
Oh, a touchdown if they miss an extra point, right? Like, I'm saying, like, an actual touchdown. But yeah, touchdown PAT just underneath, right?
Yeah.
So Jayden Daniels is firmly a top 5 quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, you said that a couple weeks ago, and I was shaking it off, and we might have something to it.
Yeah.
6.5 is a big line here, and I can understand the play. I don't have any confidence in where this game's going to go. I could see it being Eagles running away with it, but Jake got left out last week. I had a plus 6.5 on the Eagles over the Rams, was feeling good about it all game long. And then our guy Jake Elliott missed a couple extra points, and I got backdoored. So that was painful. That was painful. Do you think Jake Elliott maybe muff some things up and Washington at least can cover in this one, Jake?
I struggle with this one too. It's why I didn't actually make a pick in this section. It's just I could see either of the games going either way, but this one especially, like, we don't know what Jalen Hurts we're gonna get. Yeah. Is he gonna be 100%? I don't think so. Is that gonna matter? I don't know. Saquon exists. When he exists, anything's possible. The line's already even moved off of what Steve put in here. The only book still offering it at 6.5 is FanDuel. Every other book is already down to 6. So the line's already moving on this pretty aggressively.
So if you want it, get them.
Yeah, get over there right now. But yeah, I don't think Jake Elliott will be the issue again. He's a guy with an elite first name, so I don't think he's going to mess up again. Plus, I don't think they're going to be playing in a blizzard again. And I think that was definitely part of the lack of cohesion we saw from that aspect of the game.
When you like the under in this game, 47.5 points. So talk about that play. Why do you think that's the better investment here for Washington versus Philadelphia?
Yeah, it mostly boils down to the fact that if Jalen Hurts isn't healthy, I think Philly's going to lean more heavily into the run. And as a result, we're just going to see a slower pace of play out of both teams. Washington has been known to lean on the run at times this season as well. When the passing game isn't working, they will go to the run. They can Daniels can run. I could just see this game being a lot slower than anticipated, especially, if God forbid Jayden Daniels gets hurt at some point in the game. Both teams are going to play extremely slow. It wouldn't surprise me to see this game even go. I would be comfortable with this line all the way down to like 41-42.
Wow. It's interesting because in one way it's hard to do that just because Washington is a team that just, put up a lethal amount of points, but it was against the Lions who were banged up, and Philly's defense looked great, and the under was tracking. Eric last week was on the under in the Philly game. He was under in the Philly game in the wild card weekend, looked like he was going to go back to back, and then things just got a little out of hand there. I think when Quinshon Mitchell went out, as well as their backup cornerback that came in and played as well. So very, very interesting play here. 47.5. Is a high number, especially potentially for some more weather out there in Philadelphia. Steve, you like the under in the Sunday night game as well. Buffalo, Kansas City, AFC Championship grudge match between two bitter rivals. What are you seeing over here?
Yeah, I'm seeing two teams that, like, Kansas City does not let up points, nor do they really score points.
Yeah. You tried to go with the over last week just because it was such a low number and got burned.
It was such a low number, and it still didn't hit, right? Like, I think it was like 42 points Uh, they only got to like 38, I think. So this is not a team that likes to let up points. So for both teams to score, 24 points apiece, I don't see it because I don't see Buffalo's offense looking all that great right now. It doesn't look cohesive. It doesn't look very inspiring. Their strength is kind of matched by Kansas City's strength. And Kansas City, I truly do not believe this team is going to win. I think Buffalo is going to take this game overall. I don't think it's going to be in a shootout, though. I think Kansas City is finally going to suffer from the fact that they do struggle to score points, and Buffalo's going to take advantage of that.
Okay, so you're seeing kind of a tough and gritty game, and I think that's really
legs.
Like I almost think Buffalo's way to victory is probably putting up a shit ton of points, though, right? Because it's like Kansas City has only
can run the ball so much better than Kansas City can because James Cook and Josh Allen are better than anything Kansas City has running the ball. So unless Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce really turn back the clock, I see this going Buffalo's way.
I like Buffalo last week, Jake. They were someone I was afraid. Obviously, I'm not touching that game just because it was one from an ATS standpoint. It's hard for me to get invested in pick'ems really at that point. But Buffalo, gun to the head. I said before the game to Kay, like gun to the head. I think Buffalo wins this game, and I think this is one of their best shots in quite some time to slay the Dragon of Kansas City.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, we saw them match up earlier this year. Kansas City obviously didn't have the team that they currently have, but they were able to pull out the victory that time. Weather's going to play a factor this late in the year as well. But I actually like the over in this game. I think this is going to be a shootout. I think we are going to see we're one more week removed from Patrick Mahomes' ankle sprain. Now he's got another game under his belt after having not played since Christmas. So he'd been almost a month without a game. I think if there's an opportunity, I mean, hell, it's another week Isaiah Pacheco is healthier. It's another week Hollywood Brown is healthier. Like, I think Kansas City is going to find their stride. And I definitely understand Steve's point of them not allowing a ton of points, but they are good at limiting teams to just less than they score. Like we saw it the last two regular season games. They only beat the Ravens by 7, still gave up 20. The over would hit in that game against the Bengals, gave up 25. Like they have struggled at times this year against good offenses. They've even struggled against like the Carolina Panthers. Like there's just things that go one way or another in this game for this team. And I just can't imagine this game not being a shootout. And maybe that's just history. History of these two teams, but it's going to be a good game.
You guys would be this, right? Offensively for the Buffalo Bills, in the passing game especially, what wide receiver right now do you feel is going to do a good job against the Kansas City Chiefs? Because the number one, no, he's not, because Trent McDuffie's there. And Trent McDuffie is probably the best slot cornerback in the NFL right now. So that's going to take away Shakir. Now you're leaning on Keon Coleman, who's a rookie, who's coming off an injury, who still looks hurt. This is not a good recipe. Amari Cooper, I don't know what happened to him. They traded for him, but I think they just sent a jersey that said Cooper and some guy because that dude looks awful. Like whatever is going on with Amari Cooper, it is a train wreck. Nothing about Buffalo through the air matches up well against Kansas City. Where Buffalo matches up well is on the ground. And when you're a ground-based game where the winds will probably be whipping, it's going to be freezing fucking cold. This is not a recipe for a high-scoring game, and Kansas City has yet to score over 30 points at all.
I think what's tough about this one is that the trends are conflicting. Kansas City, as you kind of mentioned, Steve, 7-11 to the over. So you're betting unders on Kansas City more times than not, and you're cashing them this season. But Buffalo kind of on the other side of that, 11-7-1. So they've been really good to bet the over on. So it's a tough game for me. I think I'm going to stay away from the total market here. And honestly, I'm staying away from the ATS markets as well. So we'll shift right into props, staying with this game. Jake, you're expecting Patrick Mahomes potentially have a turnover via interception here on Sunday night. What are you thinking?
He's due. He's due for an interception. I saw a tweet today. There have been like 280 turnovers or some crazy number of turnovers since like week 8 of this season. and Kansas City accounts for 0 of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just their luck of keeping the ball on their side of the field has been so insane. Patrick Mahomes, he's a great quarterback. Great quarterbacks tend to get luckier with how they throw the ball, it not getting intercepted. But this is a defense that I do believe can give him trouble. The offensive line has had some concerning points. They're like either elite at their position or terrible at their position, especially like if you look at PFF, like Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, Joe Thuney, all top 12 at their position. And then their current starting left guard and Jawan Taylor are Calendo, not even rated. He's been so poor. And Jawan Taylor's 62nd out of 81 qualifying tackles there.
I don't know how they just keep rolling. I mean, I guess they've had Thuney out. You know what I mean? Thuney, who's been rolling out there.
Their interior of their offensive line is elite. The interior of that offensive line. The number one thing when
Creed
Tom
Humphrey
Brady
and Trey Smith, they're insane.
They talked to Tom Brady once and they said, "What's the worst kind of pass rush?" And he said, "Without a doubt, it's up the middle. It's the one that pushes right into your face." He's like, because you can step up into the pocket. He goes, but when you can't step up into the pocket, that's when you really get destroyed. That's when it ruins your game plan. He's like, because everyone accounts for an edge rusher. Every team accounts for an edge rusher. They don't account for a D tackle bombing into your, like sitting on your lap, because you can't step into your throws. You can't step up in the pocket. That's why Kansas City's been so successful. They know that. They're like, hey, fuck the tackles. Like, we're not going to pay that. We'll pay the interior and let Mahomes just move around.
I think it's a lot of questions for the Buffalo defense in this one. Like, if we can see Taylor Rapp get up, he's day-to-day right now with that hip injury. We also saw Christian Benford get knocked out on a kick return as well. Taron Johnson with that shoulder injury. And Matt Milano kind of disappeared from the end of that game against Baltimore. He wasn't in on the last few plays, which I don't know why you wouldn't want to have a weapon like Matt Milano out there who is, since he has returned from injury, guys, like I think he has turned this Bills defense around 100%. as a whole. So if Matt Milano, Johnson, Rapp, and those guys can get back on the field, I really might consider this bet, Jake. I think this is a good one. Positive regression or negative regression in this point, it is a real thing. Win sports betting, win playing fantasy. So I think it's a great call out from you. Steve, I'd like to go.
One last thing I want to add. The last team to pick Patrick Mahomes off in the 2024 NFL season, the Buffalo Bills.
Okay. All right. Well, they've played
twice.
Enough. Sean McDermott should have a read on them. Steve, I wanted to shift back to the NFC game, starting with your prop. You're going back to the well. Jayden Daniels over 1.5 passing touchdowns 2 weeks in a row at plus money. What do you like?
I like Jayden Daniels. I mean, that's all you have to say at this point. You keep people keep giving me plus money on this, and I'm like, hey, listen, I'll take that right to the fucking bank. Why not? Because if you're going to give me free money, I'm not going to tell you no. I'm not a fool.
Hit it last week, hit it the week before. I think you've been on it almost every single week in the postseason.
This guy is very quickly becoming like him, right? Like you're just looking at him going, like, what can he do? Dyami Brown looks good in this offense. Like,
yes, he does.
That post he threw.
Oh, yeah.
Dyami Brown.
Yeah.
There has never been a throw in the NFL better than that throw. That
okay.
I won't go that far. I'm not going to.
It's as good as any throw you'll ever see. You can't make that throw. If it had gone for a touchdown, if it had landed in the end zone instead, we'd be talking about it as one of the greatest throws of all time, because he launched that thing at the absolute perfect angle that it fell just into his hands, just where he could catch it with so little room to fit it in there. It was unbelievable. Jayden Daniels, and at this point, they've stopped becoming a run-first team in the red zone, and they are throwing it. Zach Ertz is a red zone target. Terry McLaurin is a red zone target. Jayden Daniels is going to get his passing touchdowns. They've shifted their offense entirely in the red zone, and they're throwing it at a higher rate now.
Yeah.
That is the key. That was always the thing that was holding him back, was they were running that ball. They were getting tackled at the 1 yard line and running that ball in with Brian Robinson, running it in with Austin Eckler, Jeremy fucking McNichols taking fantasy points from all of us. Like, this dude, keep giving me the free money. Please, please. I need it. I got to pay rent.
So I like the call here. I think if you're getting it at plus money again, the big question marks for that Eagles defense. One, it's Quinyon Mitchell at the cornerback position. Will he be up for this game? He is expected to play, but probably won't be at 100%. We'll see if he can last the full game. And we're not sure the status on Isaiah Rodgers as well, who's banged up against the Rams. That's his direct backup. So those cornerback situations right there for Philly really matter a lot to me. And it's why I'm going to go with my first prop of the night, staying with the Commanders offense. Dyami Brown over 3.5 receptions. Going back to the well here as well with Brown, he led the Commies in targets in the divisional round with 8, running or catching 6 of them for 898 yards. We had him on the 2.5 reception line last week. Now it's up at 3.5. Dyami has still hit this line in 3 of the last 4 and 4 of the last 6 games, also averaging 93.5 yards in the playoffs. So I think you could probably parlay this together at a lower unit wager with his 42.5 yard receiving line, probably get you somewhere in that 150, 175 plus range. Terry ran 93% of the snaps. Dyami ran a season high 83% of the snaps last week. Next closest was Zacchaeus at 44. Who him and Dyami were splitting times in the 2 receiver sets, but Dyami has obviously won out that role, going on how good he's looked so far this season. So with the injuries to that Eagles secondary, they were just leaking receptions to Puka and Kupp at the end of that game. I think they're going to do the same for the former Tar heel. So give me Brown there. I'm also going to go back to the well with Saquon Barkley in this game. He's over 125.5 rushing yards. This is minus 114 at FanDuel. Death taxes and betting on Barkley overs in the playoffs, boys. We've been hitting the 99.5 line the past 2 weeks. Most books, they have this at 130.5, but FanDuel actually is like the one outlier. They have it down at 125.5. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take that. I don't think, like Jake, that Jalen Hurts' knee is really being told the extent to that injury. So therefore, I'm going to lean on the Pennsylvania kid again this week. He's hit this line in 3 of 4. He would have hit it against the Packers if he didn't slide at the end of the game as well. That would have been 4 for 4 in his last 4 games. In games against the Commies this season, he's averaging 27.5 rushing attempts and 148 yards. I like the 125.5 rushing yards. So I'm going to put that together with the Dyami Brown over 3.5 receptions. I'm also going to put the Saquon over 25 plus rushing attempts. I think they're going to lean on him altogether at DraftKings. That gives me total odds of plus 305 for my Seth's Parlay of the week, presented by Angelo's Pizzaria in South Philly. Have you guys been to Angelo's in South Philly?
I've never been to Philly.
Okay, so I've only been.
Is this actually presented by them, or are we just giving them free press?
Well, it's a Philly parlay. I figured I'd shout out the best place in Philly. Listen, I've only ever been to Philadelphia one time in my life, folks. It's right down the road from me, about 2 hours away nowadays. And I have a buddy from college, one of those guys who used to make some transactions with, if you know what I mean. Used to, always there when I needed him. Met him up with him in Philly. He's like, hey, I'm going to take you to the best cheesesteak place in the city. It was Angelo's. And then Sunday night, when that game was happening, they cut to a cheesesteak restaurant, and I said, that's Angelo's. That's got to be Angelo's. And what do you know? It was Angelo's. So Seth's Parlay of the Week, presented by Angelo's Pizzaria in South Philly. Giddy up, boys. Jake, I think you also have a parlay for us as well tonight.
Yeah, I do. I'm sticking with the Commies. I do think they're going to win this game, mostly just because I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to be healthy here. But we're sticking with Jayden Daniels. We're going Jayden Daniels. We're moving the passing yards line. We're taking the alt line at 250 over. He's been doing it. He did it against Tampa last week or 2 weeks ago. He did it against Detroit this week. He's done it multiple times this year. He did it against Philly in week 16. They're going to have to throw. Even if Saquon is running the ball all over them, down their throats, all over their face, they're going to have to throw to keep up with this team. Just their running game is not there. So I think we're going to see Jayden Daniels absolutely let it fly. He's going to throw 2 or more touchdowns. We're getting that one in there as well. It's basically Steve's line. I'm just adding the half to it. It's got to be 2 or more. So I don't even need 3. But we're getting the 2 in there. Hit this again in back-to-back weeks. Hit this in 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 of his last 8 games. So this is something that we've consistently been seeing here. And then to wrap it all in, one of those touchdowns is going to go to Zach Ertz, anytime touchdown as the last leg of that parlay. Ertz has 4 touchdowns in his last 4 games. He was second amongst all tight ends in red zone targets, 26.6% target share this season in the red zone.
Wow.
Like Steve said, when they're getting there, Zach Ertz is getting the opportunity to catch the ball. That's been, kind of the key of this, late career resurgence for him. But you put all of that together over on FanDuel, you get that at plus 744, and I'm taking those odds.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Honestly, I was looking at a way to get invested with Zach Ertz because he has been so involved, Jake, and just hasn't had a lot of great trends when it comes to his receiving yards line or his reception line, but been very consistent with the touchdowns and getting looked at in the red zone. So maybe that's something I'll be looking at as just his anytime TD mark. I thought maybe I saw it at plus 175 or something like that. It was maybe that leg of it. Is that?
Yeah, it's around. Yeah, it's right around there. I can pull it up real quick just to verify. But yeah, it was too good of just a throw in to the parlay. I've been low key on an absolute heater on these 3-leg parlays. I'm up like 70 units since the beginning of this year on random 3-leg picks over on Underdog. But when I saw that line, whatever it was, I was like, this is too good to not. Like, I'm absolutely going to boost my parlay because I feel like that's the most given line in the parlay, and it didn't even have the best odds of my 3 picks.
Well, and right now, too, over on DraftKings, they are a sponsor of ours. You can check them out in the link of this episode. You can actually get a free, whatever your unit size is, they're probably going to throw out at you for a free parlay bet, no sweat bet this weekend. So make sure if you guys want to take a shot at Jake's Commie parlay, maybe my Angelo's Philly parlay as well, potentially get invested over there with DraftKings. You can for me, it's like I got to take a no sweat if someone's going to give it to me for an NFL game or a college game. Like every time, I don't care if I have to double down on the bets I already have. You got to have a chance with it. So like this call out quite a bit, Jake, like all the bets we threw out tonight. Let us know below in the comments your favorite bet that we gave you tonight. Also, let us know your bets. Can we tell you guys? I mean, I'm sure some of y'all are out there on a heater right now if you're listening to this particular program. So